everybody, I'm Miss Jessica from EVPL McCullough, and today we're going to be doing some amazing simple science experiments. Now, the two experiments that we're going to be doing today, I have titled them, Let's Get Messy, because getting messy and making a mess can be really, really fun when you're doing some science experiments. Now, first things first. One, always check with your grown-up to make sure that this is okay for you to do at home. Second thing is that you want to make sure that your space is okay to have a mess. So I have a plastic tablecloth on top of my table. I also have another covering down because we're going to be doing some messy art. So I have doubled up, and I have a lot of paper towels near me. Now, you may even want to dress in clothing that you don't mind if it gets messy, because yes, while it is fun to make a mess, sometimes cleaning up the mess is not so much fun. Okay, so we're going to be doing two different things today. The first thing we're doing is creating a piece of art using some fizzing explosions. So we're gonna need some materials for that. The first thing we're going to need is some paper, and I've got some watercolor paper here, and I'll show you. It is actually a gigantic pad of watercolor paper, and I just picked this up at Walmart. You can get it in most stores like Walmart or Target, and also craft stores. But I went ahead and cut it to make it a little easier to paint on. So I actually cut it in half to make it a lot easier. Now, I have also taped my paper down, so we've got some tape. I've got all kinds of fun food coloring. I've got some plastic cups. I have some craft sticks to help me with stirring, and I have regular craft sticks. I also have some jumbo craft sticks. I have, because we're doing painting, a paintbrush. Now, I also have what's called a pipette, and this is just like a dropper. You don't need one of these, but it does make it a little easier. We also have some water, just regular water, baking soda, vinegar, and because later we're gonna be making some slime, we need some glue, and I have some saline solution, and this you can also get in the store. Now, I have various cups and also measuring spoons and measuring cups that we're going to need later. All right, so are you ready to make a piece of art with some fizzing explosions? Now, just the other day, I made some really fun ones. So this one, I just used like pinks and reds and yellows. Now, this other one is my favorite because I love rainbows, and this made a really, really fun piece of art. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I've got my piece of watercolor paper here, and I've actually taped it down because as we're starting to paint on this, if we don't have it taped down, the paper will start to curl and kind of warp and get all kinds of crazy. So I went ahead and taped it down just to help with that. Now, I've already mixed some colors, but I'm gonna show you how I did that. So I've got a cup here and got my baking soda. So we are going to do a teaspoon of baking soda, just right in my cup. We're also going to do a teaspoon of water. And just pour that right in. Now, it's no fun without color, so I'm just going to use some food coloring, and I'm gonna add a couple drops and use my craft stick to stir. So we are making some baking soda paint using water and baking soda. Now, this you can experiment a lot with to see what works best for you. So if you need more baking soda to make it a little thicker, you want it to be kind of thick, but not super thick, but not super runny either. So like this one, the red is looking really good. It's kind of thicker. So I actually might want to add just a little bit more baking soda to my blue, just to make it a little thicker because we want some really good fizzing going for our piece of art. All right, so we've got our colors mixed. So I actually have red, I've got yellow, we've got green, purple, and blue. Now I'm also going to get a cup of water so I can rinse out my brush as I'm painting, and this water will get pretty icky looking really quickly. Okay, so I'm gonna put that right there. Now, this, you get to be as creative as you want with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take out my stirrers so they don't get in the way of my paintbrush. Let's take those out. Okay, so I've got my paintbrush and I'm actually gonna start with some red. Just gonna get some red on there. And if your color is not as bright as you would like it, you can always add more food coloring. Okay, so I'm gonna do some red up here. Ooh, my red almost looks a little orangey. I'm gonna do some red right here. Spread that out. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush off. And it's okay if your colors mix a little bit, especially when we're doing this, because they're going to mix again later. Okay, get some yellow. I'm gonna put some yellow here. And hey, do you know what happens when you mix red and yellow? What color do you get? You're right, you get orange. Okay, we're gonna put some yellow here. And I'm gonna rinse my brush. Ooh, now let's do some green. Okay, so I'm gonna put some green here. And I'm gonna put some green there. And again, this is your painting, so you get to be as creative as you want. So now we're gonna do some blue. So I want some blue right here. Now, what happens if I mix yellow and blue? What color do I get? You're right, we get green. Okay, I'm gonna put some blue right there. And for my last color, I really didn't leave a lot of space for this one. Now, what happens if I mix red and blue? What color do I get? You're right, you get purple. So I'm gonna put a little bit of purple there. I'm gonna put a little bit there. All right, so now the next thing we're going to need is our vinegar. So I'm going to pour a little bit of vinegar into my cup. I really don't need a lot at all. And we've got our pipette. So what I'm going to be doing is taking my vinegar and mixing it with my baking soda paint. And you might have done a similar experiment like this before with vinegar and baking soda, and what happens? It starts fizzing like crazy. Now this is a really, really fun painting to do because you can experiment with how much vinegar you use, how much baking soda you use, and see what happens if you change the measurements. All right, so I've got some vinegar in my pipette. Now let's see what happens when I start dripping it on my painting. Whoa, you can see it's starting to fizz, and ooh, even some of the colors are starting to mix, which I really like that. Whoa, that was a big one. That was really fizzy. Let's see what happens if we had a big one over here with our, ooh, look at that. The yellow's mixing with the blue and with the red. I bet we're gonna get some fun color mixing there. Ooh, let's add some over here. Ooh, that was a really fun fizzy. Oh, add some more there. Whoa. So we're getting all kinds of fun things. Now I covered my whole paper with color. I did leave some white spots, but You can experiment with just putting a couple of spots on your paper and see what happens when you add vinegar. So there's lots of ways to do this. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry and we'll check back on it later after our next experiment. Now our next experiment is fizzy volcano slime. Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. All right, so we're back for our next experiment. So I've got 2 cups. I've got this one right here. It's a taller one, and then I've got a smaller one to mix in. Okay, so we're gonna start with our glue, and I'm using just white all-purpose school glue. And so I'm going to be using 1/4 cup of glue. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this into my tall glass and use a craft stick to help with getting this out of here. Now, because we do a lot of experiments here at the library, we have a gigantic bottle of glue. You don't need this much glue. This is just because we do a lot of really fun things here. Okay, so I'm done with that, so I'm gonna move that out of the way. Now we need some baking soda to help thicken up our glue. So we're gonna need 1 tablespoon of baking soda. So I've got my tablespoon here. And we're gonna pour that in. Now, as you're mixing this, this will start to thicken and it almost looks a little bit like frosting. So once you start to see kind of that thicker mixture where it's really starting to look like it would be something that would come out of a frosting container, that's perfect. Now, because we want this to change colors later, we're gonna be adding some color right now. Now, it's a volcano, so we're gonna make some lava. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some yellow. I'm gonna add 5 drops. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 drops of yellow. And I'm gonna stir this. So nice and yellow. Now I want the fizzy volcano to do my mixing for me. So I'm gonna add 3 drops of red, but I'm not gonna stir it. I'm just gonna let it sit there. Now what happens if you mix yellow and red? You're right, it turns orange. Okay, so now we need to get our next cup ready. So we're going to need our vinegar, and we need 2 tablespoons of vinegar. So here is 1 and 2. Now, we're going to need some saline solution. Now, when you're making slime, you need what is called an activator, and that makes all of the molecules in the slime really bond together so you get that nice stretchiness, that kind of rubberiness. And saline solution is an excellent activator because it's not something that you have to heat up. You don't have to mix it with water or anything. It's just really nice and easy to use. Okay, so we need, let me double check so we need 3 half tablespoons. So we actually need a tablespoon, oh my goodness, a teaspoon and a half. So we need 3 of these in with our vinegar. So here is 1, 2, 3. All right, and I'm just gonna use my same spoon, mix that up, make sure that that's nice and mixed. Okay, now as you're doing this, I would recommend you have either a cookie sheet, definitely something down on your table, whether it's newspaper or a tablecloth, a pie pan, something that you are going to mix this in. So once it starts to fizz, just in case it gets a little crazy, it will overflow onto something that you don't mind getting messy. So I actually have just a pie pan here, an aluminum pie pan. So I've got my glue mixture and I've got my vinegar mixture. Now, we just did some painting with baking soda and vinegar, and what happened when we mixed those together? They started fizzing because vinegar is an acid and baking soda is a base. And when you put those together, they start to create carbon dioxide, and all of those bubbles make all of that fizzing happen. So we are going to be mixing these two together. We're going to be chemists today, just like scientists, but doing a chemistry experiment with some liquids. So I'm going to pour this in here and we're going to see what happens. All right, here we go. Well, it's not doing anything yet. I wonder what happens if we stir it. Let's try that. Let's see. Oh, do you see those bubbles rising? Oh my goodness. Okay, let's try stirring some more. Oh my goodness. Whoa, that's a lot of bubbles that it's making. Okay, I'm gonna stir it some more. Oh, wow. And before it was yellow, you can still see some yellow on the cup. And because we put that red in there, it's mixed it and made orange like lava. Wow. Okay, so what you'll want to do is to keep stirring until all of those bubbles stop. So it's still bubbling, so I'm gonna keep stirring. And you'll also see where it almost starts to become rubbery and starts sticking to the sides. That's perfect. All right, oh my goodness, it's still kind of bubbling. Now, everybody knows the best way to mix slime is with your hands. So I'm actually gonna take my rings off because we're about to get messy. That's the whole point of this, is because being messy is fun. So I've got my pie pan here and we're gonna take this out and we're gonna mix it with our hands. Now, a big tip for you is to actually put some saline solution on your hands, and that really helps with mixing it so that as you're doing this, it kind of helps to mix that in there and not be so sticky. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this out of our cup. And if it is not mixing, if it is still a little too runny, too sticky, guess what? You can always add more saline solution and that will help that. Okay, so we're gonna pull this out and oh my goodness, it still has bubbles going. They're still bubbling. Oh, so this is really fun to play with. Oh my goodness, it's stretchy. Oh, it's making bubbly sounds, little popping sounds from all that air in there. And oh my goodness, this is so squishy and fun. Wow. Oh, wow. So the more that I mix this with my hands and knead it like I'm kneading dough, then it will get a lot easier to play with and a lot more rubbery and not so slimy. But whoo, this is perfect and stretchy. This is amazing. All right, so we have done some really fun painting using some baking soda and vinegar. We've also made a fizzing slime volcano that you can play with. Now, if you want to keep this, you can put this in an airtight container. I will tell you though, this will probably not last more than a day or two. So definitely play with it as much as you can the day that you make it. All right, so I'm gonna pause real quick and we will recap everything we did and we'll see how our painting turned out. Whoa. All right, so I hope you had some fun today doing some amazing messy science experiments. So we can see that we can paint using baking soda and vinegar, so it makes that really fun fizzy explosion and causes our paint to do its own thing and create some amazing swirls. So no matter how many times you do this, your painting will always look completely different because of how things mix together. Because again, when we put our baking soda and our vinegar together, it creates carbon dioxide, and that's where that fizzing is coming from. We also made some amazing slime that was also fizzing and messy. So I hope you had some fun. Don't forget, if you go to evpl.org, you can see all of our amazing resources. You can see what we've got planned for this summer. You can see what we have in our collection that you can come and check out. Also, see when we have our craft kits, our STEAM kits available for free for anyone. And we also have story time to go kits. So there's so many things that you can come and see and have so that you can have some fun at your home. And you can do some amazing science experiments and do some really, really fun chemistry. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon. I'm Miss Jessica. Bye.